Chosen one. The silence that followed their leaving was not a punishment, it was an awakening. You stood in the middle of that quiet storm, feeling the weight of absence press against your chest. The laughter faded, the promises evaporated, and for a moment it seemed as if the world itself forgot your name. But heaven did not. God never left the room. He only allowed the noise to fade so that you could finally hear his whisper. Listen closely now, this moment was never about who walked away. It was about what was about to rise inside you. The people who turned their backs were only part of a temporary scene in a divine script written long before your first breath. You are not living in loss. You are walking through separation toward revelation. The silence that once tormented you has become sacred ground. Every chosen one faces this season. You are not abandoned, you are being refined. When everything you relied on crumbles, it is heaven's way of revealing the foundation that cannot be shaken. You thought you were being emptied, but you were being prepared. You thought you were forgotten, but your name was being spoken in rooms of glory where angels gather and destiny is discussed. The nights you cried yourself to sleep were counted. The sighs no one heard were caught by divine hands. God was closer in the heartbreak than he ever was in the celebration. And even when you questioned his presence, he was standing right beside you, waiting for you to lift your head and realize that what left was never the source, it was only the surface. You, chosen one, are being reintroduced to the one who never leaves. The ache you feel is the stretching of new wings. The space they left behind was not meant to stay empty. It was carved out for divine habitation. This is not punishment. It is placement. It is purpose unfolding in painful disguise. Lift your eyes for a moment and consider this. The God who created galaxies with a word is still writing your next chapter. What they abandoned, he will anoint. What they forgot, he will finish. What they mishandled, he will multiply. Because the mark of being chosen is not in who applauds you, it is in who sustains you when applause dies. There is a sacred mystery in the silence after departure. Heaven speaks there. And if you lean into it instead of running from it, you will discover that the absence of people is often the presence of God in disguise. It is in that quiet that you begin to feel his heartbeat again, pulsing through the cracks of your broken expectations. Do not despise this emptiness. It is a holy invitation. Every chosen soul must come to this moment, the stillness where everything earthly falls away, and only divine reality remains. The comfort of the crowd was never meant to carry you. It was only meant to introduce you to the Comforter himself. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That verse is not just ink on ancient parchment, it is heaven's declaration over you right now. You are seen. You are not abandoned. The presence of God surrounds you, even when you cannot feel it. The very ground beneath your trembling feet has been consecrated by your tears, and from that soil will grow something immortal. So breathe again. Let your shoulders drop. The same God who held you in your joy now holds you in your grief. The same hands that formed you are still guiding you. Every whisper of loneliness is being rewritten as a promise of divine closeness. When they left, something sacred began, and now heaven leans in, whispering, "Do not fear what walked away. Fear only missing what I am doing in its absence. You are not meant to chase what departed. You are meant to rise where you stand. The silence after they leave is not emptiness, it is transformation. It is God proving that even when everyone else exits, His presence remains the constant rhythm beneath your life. If you feel this truth stirring inside you, pause right now and claim it. Let heaven hear your agreement. Comment below 77, I am not abandoned. And while you are here, beloved, chosen one, make sure you stay connected to the flow of this divine message. Like, share, and subscribe so that the word of life continues to reach those who, like you, are walking through their silence toward their calling. This is your beginning. The story does not end with who left it, begins with who stayed. You feel the weight of absence pressing deeper now. Chosen one, the echo of footsteps that once walked beside you still lingers in your memory. You replay moments, wondering what you could have done differently, what word you should have spoken, what silence you should have kept. But this weight, this ache of abandonment, is not punishment. It is permission for heaven to move in ways people never could. There is something sacred about the moment everyone else withdraws. The silence that follows their departure is not just an empty space. It is a stage where divine presence begins to perform unseen miracles. You may feel forsaken, but you are not forgotten. You are not standing in the ruins of loss. You are standing in the architecture of rebirth. This pain has purpose. It stretches your spirit and redefines your faith. You once believed that love meant someone staying. Now you are learning that real love is someone never leaving. The difference is divine. You are discovering that while human love can shift, divine love cannot. While people make promises and break them, heaven's word remains unbroken. Your heart aches because it remembers connection. It remembers warmth. But it also senses something greater, something beyond what human affection could ever satisfy. The weight you feel is not just sorrow, it is the gravity of calling, pulling you closer to your source. When God allows people to leave, He is not taking love from you. He is teaching you where love truly comes from. You were never meant to depend on temporary souls for eternal security. Their absence exposes your hidden dependency, but it also awakens your hidden strength. What they walked away from was not your worth, it was your process. They left because they could not walk the same spiritual distance required for your destiny. Chosen one, heaven did not look away when they turned their backs. Angels stood guard over you while you wept. God watched, not indifferent, but intentional, allowing every unanswered message, every closed door, every tear, to become a brick in the fortress of your endurance. And even now, as you read this, the same presence that once hovered over chaos in the beginning of time hovers over the chaos of your emotions. The same voice that spoke light into darkness speaks still into your loneliness, saying, "You are mine." Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. That verse is not a gentle suggestion, it is a divine decree. God Himself promises to walk ahead of you, not beside you, not behind you, before you. That means before the pain even reached you, His plan had already made provision. Before the goodbye was spoken, He had already prepared the next chapter. Before the tears fell, He had already stored them. That is the heart of divine assurance. Chosen one, before you even knew what heartbreak was, heaven had already scripted healing into your destiny. Every ending that startled you was foreseen by the author of beginnings. You were never caught off guard by accident. You were carried by grace on purpose. God's foresight wrapped itself around your story, ensuring that even the wounds you didn't see coming would still lead you closer to wholeness. What hurts you now will one day testify of His faithfulness. You will look back and realize that the very space created by abandonment was the room where divine purpose was birthed. You cannot carry the fullness of destiny while holding on to fragments of people. God removes what competes with His place in your heart. Every chosen soul must face this holy weight, the moment when love fails you, so that love Himself can find you. Do not mistake this breaking for loss. It is expansion. You are being stretched to contain more of God's presence, more of His wisdom, more of His power. The ache in your chest is not just grief, it is spiritual growth. You may feel like you've been left behind, but you have actually been pulled ahead. Others stopped walking, but you are still being led. You are still being carried by the unseen hand that refuses to let you fall. That is why you survive what others cannot. That is why your light still burns, even when the wind of betrayal blows against it. Do not despise your solitude. It is the meeting place of divine intimacy. The weight of abandonment becomes lighter when you realize it is not abandonment at all, it is alignment. Every soul that left made room for a deeper revelation of God's nearness. And one day soon, you will wake up and realize that the void is gone, replaced by unexplainable peace. Until that day, hold this truth tightly when everyone else steps away. God steps closer. You are not alone in this empty space. You are surrounded by divine intention. You are living through proof that even in the valley of human failure, divine faithfulness remains untouched. Chosen one. Now you stand in the middle of the unseen. The room may look empty. The silence may feel heavy. But heaven is moving in ways you cannot yet perceive. You wonder where God is when the world grows quiet. But His presence has not departed. It has only shifted forms. What once came as people and comfort now comes as peace that surpasses understanding. What once sounded like laughter now arrives as a whisper in your spirit. When everyone else disappears, God hides in plain sight. He is not gone, He is cloaked in stillness. His presence is not always thunder, it is often a quiet pulse beneath your pain. There is a divine mystery in this. The invisible hand that holds your heart does its greatest work when your eyes see nothing at all. The same God who led His people through fire and flood is now leading you through absence, showing you that faith is not seeing, it is trusting the unseen movement of His will. Do you remember how you once needed to feel everything to believe it was real now? You are being trained to believe before you feel. This is maturity. This is divine growth. God is weaning you off of visible assurance so that you can walk by invisible faith. When the world turns its back, He turns your eyes toward the eternal. When hands stop reaching for you, His Spirit reaches deeper within you. There are moments when you think you are forgotten. You see others thrive while you wrestle in the dark. But this is no punishment, it is protection. God hides His greatest treasures until they are ready to shine. He conceals His chosen ones in seasons of obscurity to preserve the purity of their calling. You are not being delayed, you are being developed. Every hidden season is a womb of preparation. Every quiet night is a rehearsal for revelation. Your unseen tears are the ink God uses to write your testimony. You may not feel His touch, but you are being shaped by it. You may not hear His voice loudly, but it is guiding you. And if you would still your fears for a moment, you would sense it, the subtle warmth that rises inside when despair tries to take root. That warmth is Him. That assurance that you will make it through one more night, that is the trace of His hidden presence. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That single verse is the anthem of the unseen. It is the declaration that God is not a feeling, He is a fact. You are upheld, not by your strength, but by His grip. Even when you loosen your hold in exhaustion, His hand does not release you. That is what it means to be chosen. You are held even when you cannot hold back. God's hidden presence is not a sign of His distance, it is a sign of His depth. You are learning to trust the invisible currents that move you toward destiny. You cannot see the wind, yet you see what it carries. You cannot see God, yet you see what He sustains. Your very survival in seasons that should have destroyed you is evidence of His presence at work. Every chosen soul must come to this threshold, the place where the visible fades and faith takes over. It is here that your sight is sharpened beyond the natural. You start recognizing Him not in what you see, but in what you sense. You start discerning His direction through peace, His warning through discomfort, His nearness through stillness. This is how intimacy with the divine is born. So, do not chase signs. Do not demand proof. You are already living proof. The same presence that split seas, raised the dead, and silenced storms now dwells quietly within you. What you cannot see with your eyes, you must feel with your spirit. And that feeling, the subtle awareness that you are not alone, is the signature of heaven upon your heart. Chosen one. You are not walking through the dark, you are walking with the light. The unseen hand guiding your steps has never missed its mark. Though you question the silence, heaven calls this the training ground of faith. You are being prepared for a season when God will trust you with visibility again. But until then, walk boldly through the unseen, knowing that every breath you take is evidence of divine presence sustaining you. And now, pause for a moment. Let this truth settle deep in your chest. Type the words "I see" you below, not because your eyes see, but because your spirit recognizes. Say it as an act of agreement, a prophetic acknowledgement that you are aware of the invisible hand moving through your life. When you type it, you declare, "God, I know you're here even when I can't see you." This moment, right now, is holy. The invisible God is closer than the air you breathe. Chosen one, you were never left behind, you were set apart. What looked like rejection was really divine redirection. The people who turned away from you, the opportunities that vanished, the paths that suddenly closed, none of it was coincidence. Heaven was editing your circle, pruning your path, refining your vision. It may have felt like loss, but in truth, it was liberation. God was never trying to punish you. He was trying to protect what He planted inside of you. When others walked away, you thought you had been forgotten. But separation has always been God's language of sanctification. You were not meant to be where everyone else is going, because your calling is not like everyone else's. There is a difference between being excluded by people and being extracted by God. The first wounds, the second saves. You have been called into distinction, and distinction often looks like distance. God pulled you away, not to make you lonely, but to make you ready. There are certain revelations that can only be received in the absence of applause. There are certain mantles that can only be carried by those who have learned to walk alone with heaven. It is in the solitude of being misunderstood that you begin to see clearly. Every no that stung your heart was actually heaven's yes in disguise. Every door that shut with force was saving you from rooms that could not hold your purpose. You are not behind schedule, you are being hidden until the right time. And that hiding is not shame, it is strategy. You were never meant to blend in. Chosen one. The moment God marked you, normal stopped being an option. You have been called to live, set apart, not superior, but sanctified, not distant, but divine. The tension you feel between where you are and where others seem to be is not failure, it is formation. You are being shaped by hands that see the end from the beginning. Sometimes, God will separate you before He elevates you. He will remove comfort so that conviction can grow. He will isolate you so that identity can form. And in that sacred stillness, you begin to hear your real name again, the one heaven wrote, not the one the world tried to give you. You start realizing that the rejection you feared was actually the doorway to revelation. You remember those moments when people misunderstood your fire, when your compassion was taken for weakness, when your purity was mocked, when your silence was misread as indifference. Every one of those moments was evidence that you were not made for their frequency. You were tuned to heaven's sound. You were wired for divine resonance. So do not look back with bitterness. The ones who left could not carry what is inside you. Their departure was not personal, it was prophetic. You were never theirs to hold. You belong to the one who called you before the foundations of the world. The same hands that allowed separation will also orchestrate divine connection in its time. But for now, the solitude is sacred. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you." This is the essence of being set apart, chosen for fruit that remains. You were not called to temporary applause, you were chosen for eternal impact. Every pruning, every rejection, every lonely night is part of this divine process. God's selection always comes with separation. It is not cruelty, it is craftsmanship. Think about it, a seed must be buried before it can bloom. Darkness comes before dawn. Hiddenness comes before harvest. What looks like burial is often just planting. That is what God has done with you. He buried you, not to end you, but to root you deeper. When you rise again, and you will rise stronger, purer, and unshakably aware of who holds your future. Let your heart rest in this truth. Being set apart does not mean being forgotten, it means being focused. You are being refined by the divine hand, trained to walk in power that ordinary hearts could not contain. The very separation that wounded you is now the proof of your anointing. When others left, you were left with God, and that is more than enough. So breathe deeply. Chosen one, the silence around you is not absence, it is preparation. You are not alone, you are being aligned. You are not waiting to be found, you are being fitted for destiny. The world will see you again. But next time, you will not come out searching for belonging. You will come out carrying purpose. Chosen one, every tear you have shed was not wasted, it was counted. The pain, that drenched your pillow, the nights you could not find words to pray, the moments when you wondered if heaven was silent. All of it was seen. Pain is not your punishment, it is your purification. You are walking through fire. But this fire is not sent to destroy you. It is refining you, purging what cannot go into your next season. You may not realize it, but God uses pain the way a sculptor uses a chisel. Each strike, though sharp, reveals more of your true form. Every heartbreak carved away something false. Every disappointment stripped away something temporary. And what remains is the authentic you, the version of yourself, heaven designed before the world ever touched you. Sometimes, the fire feels unfair. You wonder why others seem to live easily while you wrestle with invisible battles. But, beloved, gold does not envy wood. Only gold is trusted with fire because only gold can endure it. You are not being punished, you are being purified for glory. Heaven invests intensity only in those destined for impact. Your tears have a language, and heaven understands it. Each drop of sorrow is a seed. When it falls into the soil of surrender, it grows into wisdom, compassion, and strength. You are learning what comfort really means, not the absence of pain, but the presence of purpose. Pain reveals purpose, the way rain reveals seeds hidden in the earth. As the apostle reminds us in his first letter, in the book of 1 Peter, chapter 1, verses 6 and 7, "In all this you greatly rejoice, though now, for a little while, you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes, even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." You are being refined in the fire of divine craftsmanship. The process may hurt, but it is holy. It strips away what cannot last, so that what is eternal may shine. You are becoming radiant through resistance. The friction you feel is not failure, it is formation. Imagine a blacksmith heating metal. The flames roar, the metal glows, and the hammer falls. Each strike looks violent, but the craftsman is smiling. Why? Because he knows what he's shaping. You are that glowing metal, and God's hands are steady. The blows you feel are not random, they are rhythmic. Every strike forms strength. Every heat test builds purity. You are becoming something that cannot bend under pressure. Chosen one. There are places God will take you where pain will become your greatest credential. You will speak healing to others, not because you read about it, but because you bled through it. The same pain that once silenced you will one day give you authority to speak peace into storms. You will look back and realize that what you called breaking was actually becoming. This refining journey is not easy, but it is necessary. You are being trusted with oil that others prayed for but could not carry. Oil flows through crushing, not comfort. The anointing you carry was pressed out of pain. Every loss was an extraction, every betrayal, a distillation. Heaven distilled something rare within you, something that cannot be manufactured in ease. And as you walk through this sacred fire, know this: the same God who allows the flames controls their limit. He will never let the heat rise higher than your grace can bear. You will not be consumed, you will be completed. The fire that surrounds you is not hell, it is heaven's forge. If this message has touched your spirit, take a quiet moment to let gratitude rise in your heart. You are still standing, still breathing, still glowing with purpose. And if these words have brought light to your darkness, would you help that same light reach someone else when you like? You are not just tapping a button, you are adding your flame to the fire of faith. When you share, you are handing another soul a torch in their night. When you subscribe, you are choosing to walk this journey together as a community of the refined and the rising. And if you ever feel led to donate, know that your gift becomes oil that fuels this ministry's lamp, helping it shine where despair still lingers. This is not a transaction, it is a partnership of purpose. Together, we become a lighthouse in the storm, a steady glow for those who have not yet realized that their fire is refining, not destroying them. So lift your head, chosen one. The flames that once frightened you are now your crown of endurance. What once burned you now brightens you. And when you emerge from this season, the world will see not the ashes of pain, but the gold of glory. Chosen one, do you remember the doors that closed in your face? The moments when opportunity seemed within reach, then suddenly vanished. The confusion, the sting, the endless questions. Why now? Why me? You stood before what looked like open gates, only to watch them seal shut as if heaven itself had rejected you. But hear this truth clearly. Every closed door was divine protection disguised as denial. You prayed for access, but God answered with safety. You asked for expansion, and He replied with restriction. It was never punishment, it was placement. The doors that refused to open were not locked by the enemy, they were sealed by the hand of mercy. Heaven blocked you, not because you were unworthy, but because what waited behind those doors could not hold what you carry. There are some doors that look promising but lead to prisons. There are connections that appear divine but conceal distraction. There are opportunities that glisten with gold but are lined with compromise. God sees what you cannot, and He loves you too much to let you walk into what would wound you. The door that wouldn't open was not rejection, it was redirection. In the moment, it hurt. You thought you failed. You blamed yourself for not being enough. But now, as you look back, you can start to sense it, the quiet protection that shielded you from heartbreak that would have derailed your destiny. God's no is not cruelty, it is covenant care. His refusal is often His rescue. You are learning, beloved, that access without alignment is dangerous. Not every path that glitters is meant for your feet. Not every voice that calls your name carries the echo of heaven. The world teaches you to chase every open door, but the Spirit teaches you to discern which ones are divine. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not what God opens, but what He closes. The Apostle John recorded in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verses 7 and 8, what He opens, no one can shut, and what He shuts, no one can open. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. That promise is more than poetry, it is prophecy over your life. When God shuts a door, even your tears cannot reopen it. When He opens one, no power in hell can keep it closed. You are walking under divine management. Even when it feels like chaos, heaven knows when to limit, when to lift, and when to lock. You see, chosen one, the blocking of one door often signals the building of another. The delay you resent is the blueprint you cannot yet see. God is not just controlling outcomes, He is curating timing. What looks like waiting is actually weaving. What feels like silence is strategy. You are not being withheld from destiny, you are being aligned with it. There are seasons when you will feel caged. You will look at others and see them walking freely through their opportunities while you remain still. But remember, even eagles sit before they soar. The door that remains shut today is strengthening your wings. The stillness you despise is training your spirit to fly higher. With wisdom that won't waste the open doors of tomorrow. Some doors must close to preserve your purity. Some endings are divine beginnings wrapped in disguise. The pain of the closed door is real, but so is the purpose behind it. God knows that open access without preparation leads to collapse. That is why He sometimes hides you, holds you back, and hems you in. Do not curse the door that closed. Bless it, because behind that no was 1,000 unseen yeses to peace, to purpose, to protection, the friendships that faded, the jobs that fell through, the paths that ended abruptly. All of them were rerouted by a loving hand that refuses to let you settle for less than His best. You have cried enough over locked gates. Now it is time to trust the gatekeeper. His timing is flawless, and His methods, though mysterious, are merciful. When the door finally opens, it will not open because you forced it. It will open because heaven declared. Now, chosen one, lift your chin. Stop pounding on closed wood and start praising the one who built the walls around what is not meant for you. You will see, soon enough, that every detour was divine direction. Every delay was a seed of destiny waiting for its season to bloom. If this truth resonates with your spirit, if you feel peace rising where confusion once sat, declare your agreement now. Comment 333 below, not as a superstition, but as a sign of alignment. 3 for the Trinity. 3 for divine completeness. 3 for the holy confirmation that you trust the doors God opens and closes in your life. Let it be your declaration: I trust the one who shuts as much as the one who opens. Chosen one. In a world that forgets quickly, you must remember this truth: you are not replaceable. People may have walked away, others may have overlooked you, but heaven has never misplaced your name. You were inscribed in divine intention before you were ever visible to this world. No imitation can carry your fingerprint. No replacement can fulfill your purpose. You were crafted for a specific assignment that only your obedience can activate. The ache of being forgotten has a sharp edge. It cuts through confidence, whispers, lies, and tells you that what you gave was not enough. But those are not the words of God. The Creator never calls you disposable. He calls you chosen, set apart, irreplaceable. When others leave, He stays not out of obligation, but out of covenant love. His eyes remain fixed on you because your existence carries divine investment. You were designed with intention. Every feature, every flaw, every fragment of your story carries significance. Nothing in your life has been wasted, not the pain, not the confusion, not even the seasons of silence. You are not a product of chance. You are a prophecy walking in human form. Every step you take echoes the faithfulness of a God who never drafts duplicates. There are moments, however, when you feel invisible. You pour yourself into people, into dreams, into duties, only to be left unseen. You give your best and watch others receive what you prayed for. You sit quietly, wondering if perhaps you were too late, too soft, too much. But, beloved, listen, God does not measure your worth by human recognition. He measures it by divine purpose. When others forget you, God remembers in detail. He knows how much you've carried and how much you've lost. He knows the weight of your waiting and the fire of your faith. He remembers the prayers whispered when no one else was listening. Heaven's ledger never loses track of your tears. Every unnoticed effort is a seed sown in eternity's soil. You are the kind of soul that darkness cannot duplicate. Your presence carries a frequency that interrupts despair. You may not see it, but when you enter a room, the atmosphere shifts. Light does not announce itself, it simply appears, and everything changes. That is who you are, a quiet disruption to the plans of darkness. A divine original that cannot be replicated by imitation or envy. We read in the sacred text of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 16, "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me." That image is not metaphor alone, it is intimacy, described in language we can comprehend. God does not merely know you, He carries you. He has etched your essence upon Himself. As though heaven could not bear to exist without remembrance of your name, when others release you, He still holds you. When others replace you, He still reveres you. When the world forgets, His hands remain marked with proof that you were never absent from His heart. Think about it. Chosen one, kings sign decrees, but your name is engraved on the hand of the King of Kings. That means your worth is not negotiable, your identity not replaceable, your purpose not transferable. You are the original signature of God's creative genius. The enemy's greatest fear is not that you will be forgotten, it's that you will finally realize you cannot be. You have been tried, tested, and trusted. You have survived things that others could not. The fact that you are still here is proof of divine election. Every storm that failed to drown you was a testimony signed by heaven's hand. You are evidence that purpose prevails over pain. You are a living scripture, a walking verse, a testimony still unfolding. And when you begin to grasp this, peace enters your bones. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop striving to be noticed. You stop auditioning for love that was already secured at Calvary. You begin to walk differently, not in arrogance, but in assurance. You understand that to be chosen is to be trusted, and to be trusted is to be treasured. Those who left did not diminish your value, they revealed it. Their departure uncovered how deeply heaven has invested in you. You were never meant to fit into temporary hands when you were carved for eternal ones. Their absence does not define you, God's engraving does. So, stand tall. Chosen one. You are not a backup plan in anyone's story. You are a divine masterpiece in God's. You are not an option, you are an ordination. Let this truth settle into your soul. You cannot be replaced, because heaven never creates twice what it perfected once. The world may forget, but God never does. His hands still bear your name. His plans still carry your purpose, and His heart still beats for you. Unchanged, unshaken, unending, chosen one. Every loss carries an unseen exchange. Heaven never takes without intention. What was taken from you, what slipped through your hands despite your prayers, is not gone into emptiness. It has been sown into eternity. God does not deal in subtraction, He works through transformation. The things that left your life were never meant to end you, but to make room for something eternal, unshakable, and holy to take root. You see, what you called endings, heaven calls exchanges. When God removes, He replaces. When He prunes, He prepares. You cannot lose what is divine. You can only be repositioned for more of it. The divine exchange is a mystery pain transformed into power, mourning into strength, scarcity into sufficiency. You may not recognize it now, but everything you have surrendered is being multiplied in unseen places. There are moments when surrender feels like defeat. You watch dreams fall apart, people depart, and plans unravel, and you wonder if you have failed. But the truth is deeper. The unraveling was making room for renewal. God cannot fill a clenched fist. He blesses open hands. That's why some things had to be released, not because they lacked value, but because they could no longer contain your growth. You were never meant to stay small. Chosen one. The discomfort you feel is the stretching of heaven's design. When everything familiar starts slipping away, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. Divine exchange always begins with loss, but it never ends there. Every surrender is a seed, and every seed must first be buried before it breaks forth in bloom. Consider the seasons of your life, the ones that broke you, the ones that humbled you, the ones that left you speechless. Do you see how those very moments also gave birth to wisdom, compassion, discernment? The pain that once wounded you now teaches others. The betrayal that once silenced you now gives you the authority to speak truth without fear. This is the holy pattern of God. Nothing surrendered in faith ever returns empty, as was declared in the writings of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That is the divine exchange, a holy transaction where heaven takes what crushed you and turns it into what crowns you. The ashes of grief become soil for beauty. The tears of mourning turn into oil for healing. The heaviness of despair transforms into a song of praise. God does not simply restore, He upgrades. There are things you once prayed to keep that He intentionally took, because they were holding you back from what was greater. The people who left, the opportunities that faded, the doors that closed, they were all part of heaven's trade system. You could not carry both the old and the new. One had to be released for the other to arrive. Every divine exchange carries a sacred rhythm: loss, surrender, silence, and then renewal. Between what leaves and what comes lies a waiting season that feels endless. But do not mistake delay for denial. While you wait, heaven works. What is being prepared for you is being refined beyond your sight. It's like a gardener pruning a rose bush. The cuts seem cruel, but they prevent the plant from exhausting itself on weak branches. The pruning saves the rose from mediocrity. That is what God does with you. He trims your life not to diminish you, but to direct your strength toward fruit that lasts. The divine exchange also takes place inside you. Old identities fade so that true identity can emerge. False peace is replaced by holy confidence. Fear gives way to faith. You begin to notice it where once you used to break easily. Now you stand unshaken. Where you used to run to others for validation, now you run to God for direction. What once hurt you now teaches you. What once drained you now fuels you. This is how heaven restores quietly, steadily, gloriously. God trades what is temporary for what is eternal. He replaces weakness with wisdom, despair with discernment, scarcity with sufficiency. You are walking evidence of the exchange. You have been broken and rebuilt, emptied and filled, silenced and then sent, chosen one. It may not look like gain yet, but the trade has already happened. Heaven has already deposited new strength into your spirit. You are not who you were when this began. The loss that tried to end you became the very soil from which new life grows. So, walk forward, not as one who has been robbed, but as one who has been refined. What you lost is being translated into something greater. You are living in the in-between, the sacred place between ashes and beauty, between pain and praise. And soon, you will see the fullness of what was exchanged. What left will never compare to what arrives. Chosen one. There comes a moment in every divine journey when loneliness stops being a curse and begins to feel like a calling. You used to dread the silence, the empty spaces where laughter once lived. But now, you are beginning to sense something deeper moving through the quiet. What once felt like abandonment has become an altar. What once felt like emptiness has become encounter. When heaven wants to speak clearly, it often clears the crowd. God removes the noise so you can finally hear the whisper. Isolation is not exile, it is invitation. The world sees loneliness as punishment, but heaven sees it as preparation. The very space you thought was deserted is being filled with divine presence. There is a strange peace that begins to grow when you stop resisting solitude. It's not the peace of having everything under control. It's the peace of realizing you don't have to. The more still you become, the more you begin to notice it, the presence that never left. The quiet warmth that keeps showing up in your weakest hours. That warmth is not imagination, it is Emmanuel, God with you. In this sacred isolation, distractions fade and clarity rises. Your thoughts, once tangled by pain, begin to stretch toward light. You start to see patterns, meaning, and messages that were hidden in the noise. The silence becomes your teacher, and the solitude becomes your sanctuary. It's in this stillness that your roots grow deep, unseen but unshakable. We read in the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 1, "Whoever dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That secret place is not a building or a mountain, it is the sanctuary of your soul. It is the quiet corner where your heart leans toward heaven. You don't need candles or choirs to enter it, you just need surrender. Every chosen soul must find this inner holy ground, this private dwelling where peace becomes tangible and God becomes near. When you dwell in that secret place, you begin to understand something powerful. Loneliness was never meant to break you. It was meant to birth you. Great callings are conceived in quiet rooms. Every prophet, every psalmist, every apostle was first hidden before they were heard. The wilderness is not a punishment for the chosen, it is their classroom. Think of Moses tending sheep before leading nations, of David writing psalms before wearing a crown, of Elijah hearing God not in the wind or fire, but in the still small voice. Their solitude was not weakness, it was where their strength was forged. You are walking the same ancient path. The silence that surrounds you is the same silence that shaped giants of faith. In your quiet moments, heaven whispers identity. God begins to show you who you are, apart from applause, apart from others' opinions, apart from what you've lost. You begin to realize that you were never alone, only unaware. Every tear that fell in solitude was met by divine compassion. Every sigh in the dark was heard by the one who sits on the throne. Chosen one. This sanctuary of solitude will change you. You will emerge from it different, not desperate for validation, but full of conviction. The same silence that used to hurt will now heal. You will carry peace into chaos because you have found peace in isolation. You will walk through storms calm and unshaken because you learn to stand still in the secret place. So now, as you read these words, take a breath. Let the quiet become sacred again. Feel the atmosphere shift around you, the heaviness lifting, the stillness deepening. This is holy ground. Right where you are. The secret place has found you. If this truth resonates deep within you, if you can feel that peace resting on your spirit even now, type these words below: I am still. Say it not as resignation, but as revelation. I am still means you choose presence over panic, faith over fear, worship over worry. It is your declaration that you trust the stillness God has given you. It is your way of saying, even if no one walks with me, I know who sits beside me. You are not alone in your quiet room. You are dwelling beneath divine wings, hidden but held, unseen but known. Loneliness is no longer your enemy. It has become your doorway to encounter. Chosen one. There is a truth the heavens want you to hear tonight. God's eyes have never left you. From the first tear that traced down your cheek to the sighs that never found words, His gaze has followed you through every valley and across every mountaintop. Even when you turned away, even when you doubted, even when your faith trembled, His eyes stayed locked upon you, not with judgment, but with love deeper than oceans. It is one thing to be seen by people, it is another to be watched over by the Almighty. People glance and forget, but God gazes and guards. His sight is not distant or distracted, it is deliberate, steady, personal. You live every day under that holy gaze, the watchful eye that never sleeps nor blinks. When you walk through chaos, His eyes trace your steps. When you fall, His vision doesn't turn away in disappointment, it draws nearer in mercy. Every sigh of exhaustion, every act of kindness unnoticed by others, every time you choose faith when fear feels easier, He sees. You have never once gone unseen. Sometimes, the silence of heaven makes you wonder if He's watching at all. You pray and hear nothing. You cry and see no change. But in that stillness, His watchfulness is working. He sees from a higher vantage point, beyond what your eyes can perceive. You see delay, He sees development. You see confusion, He sees construction. You see emptiness, He sees preparation. It is written in the sacred chronicles of old, in the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 16, verse 9. For the eyes of the Lord range throughout the earth to strengthen those committed to Him. Do you hear it? Chosen one, His gaze is not passive, it is empowering. His eyes search not to judge, but to strengthen. You are not under surveillance, you are under sustenance. The gaze of God does not expose you, it equips you. When you feel invisible, picture this: a lighthouse at the edge of an endless sea. The storm howls, waves crash, and ships lose their way. Yet the light does not move, it stays fixed. steady, faithful. That light is God's gaze. It sweeps across the waters of your chaos and says, I see you, and I will not let you be lost. There are countless souls wandering through fog, believing they have fallen off heaven's radar, but God's vision never fails. The same eyes that watched over Joseph in the pit, Daniel in the lion's den, and Ruth in the fields are the same eyes watching over you. The same gaze that followed Peter when he sank beneath the waves now watches you rise from your own. You are not forgotten. You are followed not by fear, but by favor. God's eyes track every detail of your story. Even when you can't feel His hand, you are sustained by His sight. He knows when to let the storm rage and when to whisper, peace, be still, chosen one. Sometimes His gaze feels heavy because it carries weight, the weight of destiny, the weight of love that refuses to give up on you. But that same gaze also carries grace. It is the gentle light guiding you home when you've wandered too far. The warmth that calls you back even when shame tells you to hide. Now, pause for a moment. If these words find you where you are, if you can sense that watchful, loving presence resting over your life, breathe in that peace. And if this message has stirred something in your heart, I ask you, with sincerity, to help this light reach further. When you like, you place another candle on the shore for someone still lost at sea. When you share, you throw out a lifeline to a soul who's forgotten their scene. When you subscribe, you join a family of seekers walking together under that same divine gaze. And when you donate, you become part of the hands that keep this lighthouse burning, fueling its flame, so no ship drifts unseen into the dark. This is not about numbers or noise, it is about illumination. Each act of support keeps the beacon alive, ensuring that someone, somewhere, hears heaven whisper again, you are not invisible. So, let your heart rest. The one who watches over sparrows watches over you. His eyes have traced every sorrow and marked every triumph. His gaze is not far away. It is the very light that has kept you alive through nights you thought would never end. The eyes of heaven are not searching for perfection, they are searching for surrender. And when they find it, when they find you, they never look away. Chosen one. The anointing that rests on your life did not arrive through ease, it was birthed through breaking. You have walked through seasons that stripped you to your core, moments when you thought you had nothing left to give, and yet somehow you survived. That survival itself is proof of anointing, for what you carry now could only come from pain that pressed, crushed, and refined your spirit until only pure oil remained. There is a reason heaven allowed the crushing. Oil does not flow from whole olives, it flows from those pressed under weight. Likewise, your anointing could not emerge until your heart was pressed by trials that squeezed out what was false and revealed what was divine. You may not realize it yet, but every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment became part of your consecration. The oil that flows from your life today carries the fragrance of endurance. It's strange how God works. He hides His treasures in trials. He turns wounds into wells and ashes into altars. You once prayed for power, and heaven answered with pressure. You asked for purpose, and He gave you pruning. The road to glory always passes through Gethsemane, the place of pressing. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, the Apostle Paul writes these eternal words, For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. This is the mystery of anointing. It multiplies under weight. The heavier the burden, the deeper the oil. You may not have recognized it then, but while you wept, heaven was extracting something precious. The crushing did not diminish you, it defined you. The world saw pain, but God saw process. When others turned away, thinking your fall was final, heaven saw a vessel forming. The clay had to be softened before the potter could shape it. You were not being destroyed, you were being designed. Every breaking was a molding, every delay was a lesson in endurance. And now, even your scars preach, chosen one. Your tears have become testimony. Your pain has become purpose. You speak differently now, not from theory, but from transformation. You understand suffering in ways that have deepened your empathy and sharpened your discernment. You can recognize pain in others because you have survived it yourself. That is why your presence carries weight. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts not because of who you are, but because of what you've endured. The anointing you carry is not cheap. It cost nights of silence and seasons of surrender. It cost friendships that could not handle your process. It cost the comfort of being understood. You paid for it with every why that went unanswered. With every night you held your faith together by a thread. But the oil that came from that crushing is pure, and it drips with heaven's authority. Do not despise what made you. The very pain you once cursed has become the mark of divine trust. God would not have allowed the pressure if he did not plan to pour. And when he pours, it is not for display, it is for impact. Your story will become someone else's survival guide. Your endurance will become their evidence that God still restores. Every chosen one must go through the press before they can be poured out. The oil is not for you alone, it is for those your life will touch. That is why you could not give up, even when quitting seemed easier. Something inside you refused to die because heaven was not finished shaping you. You may not have realized it, but even as you cried, your pain was producing power. The crushing did not end you, it crowned you. And though you bear invisible bruises, they shine like hidden jewels in the eyes of heaven. Now, when you pray, your words carry weight. When you speak, your voice carries resonance. When you comfort, your compassion carries healing. All of that came from the oil of endurance. You are walking proof that what breaks you can also anoint you. Chosen one. Remember this, God never wastes pain. The oil you carry was refined in the fires of affliction, but now it gleams with the glory of transformation. What once hurt now heals. What once pressed you down now propels you forward. You are no longer defined by the crushing, you are defined by the flow that came after it. Chosen one, you have begun to see it now, the beauty of God's timing. There were seasons when you begged him to move faster, when silence felt like punishment and delay felt like denial. You thought the waiting meant he had forgotten you. But as the years unfold, you are beginning to realize something sacred. Heaven is never late. God's timing is not slow, it is strategic. Every pause had purpose. Every delay held design. You have spent nights wondering why others reached milestones before you. You watched doors swing open for them while yours stayed sealed. You thought, what about me? Lord, when will it be my turn? Yet heaven was whispering, wait, I'm still preparing the room that fits the gift I've placed inside you. God's timing has never been measured by clocks or calendars. it is measured by readiness. He does not release what you pray for until your character can carry it. He is not withholding your blessing, He is protecting it. Every delay is mercy wearing a disguise. Every not yet from heaven is an act of divine wisdom, ensuring you receive what will last, not what will crumble. It is so easy to confuse waiting with wasting, but waiting is never wasted when it's done in faith. While you are waiting, God is weaving, aligning hearts, opening paths, shifting seasons, and building what you cannot yet see. The silence of heaven does not mean absence, it means architecture. The blueprint of your destiny is being drawn in the invisible before it manifests in the visible. The prophet once recorded a truth that still steadies the hearts of the patient. In the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, it is written, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." That promise is for you. Though it linger, wait for it. The vision of your life, the fulfillment of your purpose, the breakthrough you've been carrying in prayer, they are not denied, only deferred. Heaven's schedule is flawless. When the time is right, everything will unfold with a precision that makes you realize why it could not have happened a second sooner. There were things you prayed for years ago that would have destroyed you if you had received them too early. You weren't being punished, you were being preserved. Like fruit that ripens slowly in the sun, your promise needed time to mature. If it came too soon, it would spoil in your hands. God waited not to tease you, but to teach you to trust His tempo. Sometimes, waiting feels like wilderness. You wander, unsure of what's next. But the wilderness is not where purpose dies, it's where it's defined. It is where the impatient parts of you are quieted, where the roots of faith dig deep enough to anchor you for the harvest ahead. The delay that frustrates you is actually growing the endurance you will need once the promise arrives. Chosen one. If you could see heaven's calendar, you would rest. Every chapter of your story has already been timed to perfection. God does not operate in panic, He operates in prophecy. He knows exactly when to release the rain, when to part the sea, when to call your name before kings. Your job is not to rush the process, but to remain faithful in the pause. One day, when what you prayed for finally comes to pass, you will thank God for every delay. You will look back and say, "If it had happened then, I would not have been ready. But now, it is perfect." And you will see how His slow miracles are the most stable ones. So breathe. The waiting is not punishment, it is positioning. God's timing is weaving your future with threads you can't yet see. What feels delayed is being developed. What feels far is being finished. What feels still is actually sacred. If this truth stirs peace in your heart, if you sense that holy reassurance rising again after a long season of wondering, declare your trust now. Comment 444 below. Let that number be your agreement with heaven's rhythm. 4 for foundation. 4 for divine order. 4 for trust in the timing of God. Type it as your prayer in motion. I choose to trust your clock, Lord, not mine. Because when the time is right, the waiting will end not by your strength, but by His perfect word. Chosen one. Every restoration begins with ruins. What feels like the end of everything is often the beginning of something divine. You stand among fragments, shattered dreams, broken trust, plans that fell apart before they even began, and you wonder how anything beautiful could emerge from such wreckage. But the same God who formed the universe from chaos knows how to rebuild your life from ashes. The ruins are not the evidence of failure, they are the raw materials of resurrection. You see, God never starts with perfection. He starts with what's left. He specializes in rebuilding from remnants. When he looks at what is broken, he does not see hopelessness, he sees potential. Where others see a pile of ruins, heaven sees a foundation for glory. This is the divine paradox. What breaks you also builds you. There was a time when you tried to hide your ruins, to pretend that everything was fine, to cover the cracks in your heart with smiles and strength. But true restoration cannot begin until honesty does. God restores only what you are willing to reveal. When you finally lay your broken pieces before him, that's when he begins his sacred reconstruction. As the prophet wrote in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 4, "They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations." This is not just a verse, it is a vision. It means your ruins have a future. The devastation that has followed your lineage, the patterns that have repeated for generations, the wounds that seem inherited, all of them can end with you. You are the turning point in your family's story. The restoration does not begin elsewhere. It begins with your surrender. When God rebuilds, he does not simply replace what was lost, he redefines it. He turns former pain into new purpose, former weakness into strength, former loss into legacy. What once brought you to tears will one day bring others to healing through your testimony. You will walk through the very streets of your past ruins and find beauty blooming where sorrow once stood. Restoration is a slow, sacred process. You may not see progress every day, but even when it feels still, the architect is working. God rebuilds from the inside out. He begins by strengthening the unseen structure, your faith, your resilience, your capacity to love again. Before he restores your circumstances, he restores your soul. The outer change always follows the inner one. Sometimes, rebuilding hurts. The removal of old debris feels like loss all over again. You must confront what broke you, grieve what is gone, forgive what scarred you. But this time, you are not breaking, you are being rebuilt stronger. The pain you feel now is not destruction, it is construction. The same hammer that once shattered you is now reshaping you under a different hand. Chosen one. Restoration also means redefinition. You cannot rebuild with the same mindset that once accepted ruin. God is teaching you to think differently, to speak differently, to see differently. You are learning to measure your worth not by what you've lost, but by what remains unshaken. You are beginning to understand that nothing surrendered to God ever stays broken. It is always reborn. There are seasons when you will still feel the ache of what was, but even that ache will become sacred. It will remind you of how far you've come. You will touch the scars and remember the storms, not with bitterness, but with awe. You will realize that you did not rebuild alone. Every stone, every beam, every breath of strength was guided by unseen hands. And when you look around, the ruins will no longer frighten you. You will see beauty rising from every broken place. You will walk through the remains of your past and recognize them not as monuments of defeat, but as memorials of grace. What once was wreckage has become witness. You will smile again, not the forced smile of survival, but the genuine smile of someone who has seen resurrection up close. You will speak from a place of peace, because you have seen God create light where there was only darkness. Chosen one. The ruins are not your end, they are your beginning. The dust beneath your feet is holy, because it's where rebuilding starts. You are standing in the construction zone of your destiny, surrounded by divine blueprints that only heaven could design. Do not despise the ruins. They are proof that you endured, that you still stand, that God is not finished. The stones that once symbolized destruction will soon echo with the sound of rebuilding. And when the work is done, your life will not look like what was lost. It will look like what was promised. Chosen one. There comes a turning point in your journey when you finally begin to recognize the quiet companionship of God, not as a concept, not as a story told by others, but as a living presence woven into your every breath. It's not loud, not dramatic, not always wrapped in miracles. It's steady, constant, and deeply personal. You start to notice how his nearness has followed you all along, even when you didn't have the eyes to see it. At first, you might struggle to believe it. You've known abandonment, betrayal, silence. You've cried into the night, wondering why heaven was quiet when your heart was breaking. You thought his silence was distance, but now you see the truth. His silence was a form of speech. It wasn't absence, it was assurance, teaching you to listen differently. God was not ignoring you. He was inviting you deeper. He has always been beside you, closer than breath, nearer than memory. Even in the moments you were convinced he had turned away, his presence was the pulse keeping you alive. You were never walking through your pain alone. You were walking hand in hand with the one who refused to let go. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 20, "And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." That is not a promise for perfect people. It's a vow for the broken, the tired, and the chosen. He doesn't withdraw when you stumble. He stays to steady you. His companionship is not conditional, it is covenantal. There is nowhere you can go that his love does not already inhabit. Even in the deepest darkness, his light lingers. You can feel it now in the subtle things, the way peace wraps around you when fear tries to creep in, the way unexpected comfort finds you through a song, a sunrise, a stranger's kindness. These are not coincidences, they are conversations. They are the quiet language of companionship. God's love doesn't always announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it hums softly through ordinary moments. When you walk through your day, you begin to notice divine fingerprints everywhere. In the patterns of your survival, in the timing of provision, in the people who appeared just when you need them. What once felt random now feels orchestrated. You realize that even when the map was blank, the guide never left. His steps were beside yours in every detour, every delay, every difficult decision. There is something sacred about discovering this kind of companionship. It changes how you live. You no longer pray from desperation, but from dialogue. You no longer beg for God to show up. You begin to thank him for being there all along. You no longer chase signs of his love. You begin to move in the certainty of it. You start to understand that companionship is not about constant comfort, it's about constant presence. It doesn't mean the path will be easy, but it means you'll never walk it alone. You might still face loss, but you'll do it with a peace that cannot be shaken. You might still meet disappointment, but you'll carry a strength that cannot be stolen. Chosen one. Think of it this way. A seed does not grow under the sun alone. It grows because the soil surrounds it in darkness. The soil holds it, protects it, nurtures it. Unseen. God's companionship works the same way. Even when you can't see Him, you are surrounded by Him. The hiddenness of His presence is not absence, it's intimacy. This realization changes your entire rhythm of being. You stop trying to escape solitude and start embracing it. You stop measuring God's nearness by emotion and start discerning it by awareness. His presence is no longer a place you visit, it's the atmosphere you live in. It's the quiet certainty that even in silence, you are seen. Even in stillness, you are sustained. You've begun to see your entire life differently now. The moments that once seemed meaningless are redefined through the lens of His companionship. The heartbreak that once haunted you becomes holy because it taught you how to depend on Him. The disappointments that once crushed you now remind you that His plans were always better. Every breath you take, every sunrise you witness, every time you wake after a night of sorrow, you are living proof that divine companionship is not a myth. It is the pulse beneath existence itself. You have never been abandoned. You have only been unaware. So now, when loneliness knocks again, you welcome it differently. You no longer see it as emptiness, but as a sacred invitation, a reminder that the God of eternity still chooses to walk beside you in time. And when you whisper in prayer, you don't cry out to a distant sky, you speak to a friend who is already in the room, already in your heart, already listening. Chosen one. This is the great mystery. The Creator of galaxies has chosen to make His home in you. You are never without Him, not for a single heartbeat. His companionship is your inheritance, your shield, your song, even when everything else fades. This truth remains: the one who called you has never once let go of your hand. Chosen one. The wilderness you walked through was never meant to break you. It was designed to crown you. Every dry place, every unanswered prayer, every stretch of silence was preparation for what is now unfolding. You once thought you were being forgotten, but heaven was shaping you in secret. The wilderness is where the noise of the world fades, and only the voice of God remains. That voice has been whispering your true identity all along. The wilderness strips you of illusion. It removes the applause, the distractions, the safety nets, until you are left alone with the essence of who you are and the one who made you. That solitude is sacred, because it is there that purpose becomes pure. There is no stage in the wilderness, only altars. No spectators, only the Spirit. What feels like isolation is actually divine incubation. You see, crowns are not made in comfort. They are forged in fire and refined in obscurity. The crown you now wear is invisible to many, but heaven sees it shining. It was molded through your endurance, your humility, your quiet faithfulness when no one was watching. You were being prepared not for display, but for destiny. In the ancient writings of Exodus, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, it is said, Moses tended the flock of Jethro and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. The angel appeared in flames from within a bush. Moses did not find his calling in a crowd but in a desert. The wilderness was his classroom, and the fire was his confirmation. That same pattern is at work in you. The fire that once frightened you has now become the light that leads you. You were not lost in the wilderness, you were located by purpose. In your solitude, heaven anointed you. While others were seeking platforms, you were seeking presence. That is why your steps will carry weight, because you were not promoted by people, but prepared by pain. Your crown was crafted not from gold, but from grit. Not from comfort, but from conviction. Chosen one. As you emerge from this wilderness season, you will notice something profound. The world has not changed, but you have. You walk with quiet authority, not demanding attention but commanding atmosphere. Your peace intimidates chaos, your stability silences storms. You have been transformed from survivor to shepherd, from wanderer to witness. And now, as your journey continues, I want to speak to the heart that still wonders. What now? The answer is simple now. You pour out what the wilderness poured into you. You comfort others with the same comfort you received. You light torches for those still wandering in their deserts. You become the evidence that even in barren lands, beauty can bloom. If these words find you at a crossroads, if you can feel this sacred fire still flickering within your chest, let it burn brighter by helping the flame spread. When you like, it's not just a gesture, it's a spark. You help carry this light into the feeds and hearts of others who might be sitting in their own silence, waiting for a sign that they, too, are being crowned in secret. When you share, you become a messenger, like wind carrying embers. Your small act can ignite hope in places you'll never see. Someone, somewhere, scrolling in despair, might find these words because of you and realize their wilderness has meaning. When you subscribe, you join a living stream of souls who refuse to give up in the dry seasons. You become part of a tribe of torchbearers who walk by faith, who rise by grace, and who believe that no desert is wasted. And if you ever feel led to donate, know that your gift is not a transaction, it is an offering. It is like water poured onto parched ground, helping this work continue to reach those still thirsty for truth. Your generosity becomes rain that sustains this ministry's growth, turning digital dust into sacred ground for someone's awakening. Each act, whether a like, a share, a subscription, or a donation, is a seed sown into divine soil. You are not fueling a channel, you are fueling change. Together, we are building a modern-day oasis, a place where weary hearts can pause, listen, and remember that the wilderness is not the end, but the birthplace of calling. Before this moment passes, take a deep breath. Look back at how far you've come. The same God who met you in your lowest valley now walks beside you toward your next horizon. The wilderness did not empty you, it equipped you. The fire did not burn you, it branded you with purpose. You are not wandering anymore. You are walking crowned, carrying light that came from darkness. If this message has stirred your spirit, take a moment to share your reflection below. Tell what this wilderness has taught you. Your words might be the very map another soul needs to find their way through. Because sometimes, the testimony of one crown becomes the courage for another. Chosen one, lift your head. Your wilderness days are not wasted, they are woven into your crown. You are proof that silence can sing, that deserts can bloom, and that from isolation comes illumination. The King has seen you. The crown is already yours. Chosen one. After every storm comes a sunrise, soft, golden, and quiet. You felt the weight of loss, the ache of silence, the sting of separation. Yet now, something inside you begins to stir again. It's faint at first, like a melody remembered after a long sleep. That stirring is joy, real joy, returning to the soil of your soul. Not the kind of joy that depends on circumstances, but the kind that flows from a heart that has met God in the dark and survived. This joy doesn't shout, it settles. It's not wild laughter, but steady peace. It's the kind that sits beside pain and says, "Even here, I am whole." You begin to understand that purpose does not always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it arrives in the aftermath, rising from ashes like morning mist over burned fields. The return of joy is quiet resurrection. It is the evidence that pain did not have the final word. You are learning that joy is not the absence of sorrow, it's the presence of meaning within it. You can still remember what broke you, but now the memory no longer drains you. It strengthens you. What once triggered tears now invites gratitude, because you see how those very moments grew wings beneath your soul. As the psalmist wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5, "Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." That promise was not poetic metaphor, it was prophecy. And you, chosen one, are living proof of its fulfillment. The morning light is here, not necessarily outside you, but within. The night did not disappear, it transformed. What once felt endless now feels instructive. You realize the night was not meant to destroy you, but to introduce you to the kind of joy that no dawn can take away. Your joy now is rooted in revelation, not circumstance. It does not rise and fall with people's opinions or changing seasons. It stands firm because it was born in the place where you met God, not when life was easy, but when it was stripped bare. You learned that joy isn't something you earn, it's something you become. Purpose returns quietly. 2. It doesn't come as a thunderous announcement, but as a whisper in the spirit, a subtle awareness that there is still something sacred for you to do. You start to feel pulled again toward compassion, toward creativity, toward contribution. It's as if your soul remembers why it came here in the first place. What once felt meaningless begins to shimmer with divine pattern. The conversations you have, the people you meet, the ordinary routines all begin to align with an unseen orchestration. You sense the rhythm of God in the mundane, and suddenly, even the smallest acts feel sacred again. The beautiful thing about restoration is that it rarely returns you to where you were. It lifts you higher. It brings you back different, wiser, deeper, gentler. Your laughter carries substance now. Your words carry healing. Your presence carries peace. You've been refined by fire. And now, you radiate calm where chaos once lived. This return of joy and purpose does not erase what you lost, it redeems it. You find that the love you gave was not wasted. It has returned to you multiplied. The tears you cried watered the ground for new beginnings. Every loss became a seed. Every ending a threshold. The fruit of that planting is now beginning to bloom. There will still be days when the shadows linger, when grief tries to whisper again. You're still broken, but you will know better now. You will smile softly and answer, "No, I'm being rebuilt." Because the truth is, this brokenness was never your end game, it was your breakthrough. Your heart is lighter because you finally trust the process. You know now that not every closed chapter means failure. Sometimes it means fulfillment. Sometimes God ends things not to hurt you, but to honor your growth. You have learned to release with grace, to wait without resentment, to hope without haste. Purpose feels different now. It's no longer about achieving, it's about aligning. You no longer strive for recognition, you live for resonance. You want your life to hum in tune with heaven, to move with meaning rather than rush with ambition. You've traded pressure for peace. Chosen one. Look at you, stronger, softer, wiser. You are the living evidence that grace restores what grief tried to ruin. Joy did not come back empty-handed. It brought gifts, clarity, resilience, gratitude, and purpose came back too. Not as a heavy calling, but as a gentle rhythm. You've learned that purpose isn't just what you do, it's who you become when you love God through every season. The morning of your soul has arrived, and it's brighter than you imagined. The darkness has not vanished, it has learned its place. It stands behind you now, part of your story, but not your identity. Ahead lies open sky, a horizon filled with promise. You are not who you were when this began. You are someone new, someone whole, someone crowned with quiet glory. Joy has returned, and with it, the deep knowing that your purpose never left it, was only waiting for you to heal enough to hold it again. Chosen one. There is a moment when the long journey of loss and faith, of wilderness and wonder, finally comes into focus. You stand now at that moment, the quiet realization that you were never abandoned. Every heartbreak, every closed door, every lonely night was preparing you to see this truth clearly. When they left, God stayed. That is the mystery of divine love. It does not depend on who walks beside you, because it was never born from human hands. It began before time, and it has never once let go. Look back for a moment. Can you see the pattern now? The people who departed, the seasons that ended, the prayers that seemed unanswered. They were all threads in a tapestry too vast for you to see while you were living inside it. What you called loss was sometimes rescue. What you called rejection was divine redirection. What you called the end was only the middle of a miracle still unfolding. At first, the pain blinded you. It was hard to believe that anything good could come from the ache that hollowed your chest. But even there, God was present silently, faithfully, completely. His love is not the kind that always shields you from pain. It is the kind that sits beside you in it. It does not promise you a life without storms. It promises that the storm will not have the last word. The truth is this: everyone leaves eventually. Seasons change. Friendships shift. Even the strongest bonds can fade under the weight of time. But the divine presence that breathes life into your soul is eternal. It cannot be separated by distance or death, silence or sin. You have been held by a love that is both fierce and gentle, both infinite and intimate. The Apostle Paul once captured this truth in language that defies time. In the book of Romans, chapter 8, verses 38 and 39, it is written, "For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation, will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord." That is your anchor. That is the sentence that rewrites your story. Nothing, Absolutely nothing can tear you away from the one who called you, who carried you, who claimed you. Even when your faith flickered, his love did not. Even when you doubted, he stayed. Even when you tried to run, he walked behind you, waiting for the moment you would turn and see that he never left. Now you begin to understand that being chosen was never about being favored over others. It was about being entrusted with revelation. You were chosen to know what others overlook, that God's presence is not conditional, and his love is not transactional. You were chosen to live as proof that divine faithfulness endures beyond human failure. This understanding transforms how you see everything. You no longer look at your scars with shame. You see them as sacred ink, writing the testimony of grace across your skin. You no longer grieve the ones who left. You bless them, for their absence made room for your awakening. You no longer question the silence of heaven, because you have learned that silence itself is one of God's languages, quiet, but never empty. And now, standing on the other side of all that breaking, you realize something extraordinary. You are whole, not because the world finally stayed, but because God always did. Wholeness was never about having everything restored exactly as it was. It was about finding peace in the presence of the one who never departs. You can feel that peace now. It hums beneath your breath. It anchors your steps. It wraps around your heart like warmth after rain. You do not need validation to feel valuable. You do not need applause to know you are seen. You do not need company to know you are accompanied. The absence that once terrified you has become the place where presence thrives. Chosen one. You have walked through shadow and discovered that even darkness glows when God is there. You have been refined until the only thing left to hold was him, and you found that he was enough. You have learned that love is not proven by words, but by endurance. And his love has endured everything with you. Now, your purpose unfolds differently. You walk not as one wounded, but as one awakened. You carry a quiet fire within you, an awareness that you are sustained not by who stayed, but by who never left. When you speak now, your words carry weight, because they come from someone who has seen the faithfulness of God in the ruins. You no longer preach theories, you live testimonies. You will still face new trials. Yes, but this time, you will not fear them. You will meet them with calm eyes, because you know the truth. God does not abandon his chosen. Even in the storm, you will sense his hand steadying yours. Even in uncertainty, you will feel his peace settling like morning dew upon your soul. This is what it means to be chosen. It means that even when the world lets go, heaven holds tighter. It means that your story cannot end in abandonment, because it began in belonging. It means that when others exit your life, you are not empty, you are expanded, filled with a love that cannot be lost. And as you walk forward from this moment, stronger, softer, steadier, know this: you carry the mark of the faithful. You are a living message to every soul still standing in their own silence, wondering if God has stayed. You are the proof that he does. You are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are not alone. You are chosen. You are loved. You are home. Chosen one. Take a slow breath. Let every word that has found its way into your spirit settle like gentle rain. You have journeyed through pain and revelation, through wilderness and wonder, through silence and divine presence. And now, as this message closes, The truth remains unshaken when they left. God stayed. He always has. He always will. This is not just the end of a story. It is the beginning of your next chapter. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it. Something in you has awakened a steady peace, a deeper knowing, a quiet courage. You have walked through the fire and discovered that you are flame-proof. Because the one who walks in fire himself has been beside you all along. Before you move forward, pause for a moment of gratitude. Think about how far you've come, how many nights you thought you wouldn't make it, how many mornings you rose anyway. That rising was not luck. It was grace. It was proof of purpose. It was evidence that divine love never abandoned you, even when the world did. And now, chosen one, as you carry this truth into your world, I invite you to keep this light alive. When you like this message, you're not just reacting, you're echoing agreement with heaven's truth that you are never alone. When you share, you might be placing hope into the hands of someone silently breaking, someone who needs to hear that God still stays. When you subscribe, you stay connected to the stream of messages that speak to your soul, words born from prayer, pain, and divine promise. And if you ever feel led to give or donate, know that it is not a transaction, it is participation. You become part of the heartbeat that allows these words to reach more hearts, still searching for their own dawn. Lastly, I invite you to comment your reflection below. Tell what part of this journey touched you. What moment made you stop and breathe again? Your words may be the very thread that pulls another soul from despair to destiny. Chosen one, remember, this isn't the end. It's a continuation of your calling. Walk forward in confidence, covered in peace, crowned in purpose. The world is waiting for the sound of your story. Carry the light you were chosen to shine.